Oh, look at the poor pregnant woman crying again.
What a drama queen. Can't handle a little joke? Maybe the baby will have her weak genes.
Christmas is supposed to be the one time of year when everything feels right. When the smell of pine and cinnamon fills the air, when children laugh, when families gather around tables heavy with food and warmth, when the weight of the whole year somehow feels lighter because you are surrounded by the people you love. That is what Christmas is supposed to be. But for one woman, sitting alone at a kitchen table on the night of December 25th, with a pen in her hand and tears, she was too exhausted to cry. Christmas was the night her husband of 6 years handed her divorce papers. She was 6 months pregnant. The tree was still lit. The dishes from dinner hadn't been cleared. And somewhere in the next room, his mother was laughing. Not quietly, not accidentally, laughing like it was funny. Like watching a pregnant woman fall apart on Christmas night was something worth celebrating. Her name was Margaret Calloway, and the man sitting across from her, calm, composed, almost relieved, was her husband, David Calloway. They had been married for 6 years. 6 years of a life she had poured herself into completely. 6 years of believing she was building something real, something permanent, something worth fighting for. And in the space of a single evening, with Christmas lights blinking softly in the background and a baby turning slowly inside her, David slid a manila folder across the kitchen table, leaned back in his chair, and said 4 words that rewired every memory she had of their marriage. He said, "It's already been filed." Not "I'm sorry." Not "I didn't want it to come to this." Not even a warning. Just that. Cold. Final. Delivered like a business transaction he had been putting off for too long. Margaret sat there for what she later described as the longest 60 seconds of her life. She looked at the papers. She looked at David. She looked at the pen he had already placed beside the folder, as if he had rehearsed this, as if he had timed it, as if he had chosen Christmas night deliberately because he knew she would be too broken to fight back. And then she picked up the pen, and she signed. And the moment the ink touched that paper, something in David's face changed. The tension left his jaw. His shoulders dropped. He exhaled like a man who had just finished a long, difficult chore. And from the next room, as if on cue, his mother's laughter floated through the wall like a verdict. Margaret pushed the folder back across the table, stood up slowly, put on her coat, and walked out of the house she had spent 3 years decorating, maintaining, and calling home. She drove to a motel 12 minutes away, checked into a room with a broken heater and a television that flickered, sat on the edge of the bed, placed both hands on her stomach, and whispered to her unborn son, "It's just going to be us." She cried herself to sleep that night with the Christmas lights of the parking lot glowing faintly through the curtains. And David? David was already on the phone before she reached the end of the driveway. Before we go any further, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Because what happened to Margaret Calloway in the weeks and months after that Christmas night is a story that will make you question everything you think you know about trust, about marriage, and about how far a woman can be pushed before she stops breaking and starts building. Because here is what David did not know when he handed his pregnant wife those divorce papers on Christmas night. He did not know that Margaret had been quietly watching, quietly documenting, quietly waiting, not for a moment of weakness, but for a moment of clarity. And that moment came. It came harder and faster, and with more force than David Calloway ever imagined possible. The family that laughed at her that night would spend the next 2 years answering for it. And the reckoning, when it finally arrived, was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was methodical, legal, and absolutely devastating. This is the full